Okay, so I want to thank everyone for coming to our last seminar of the year. And I especially want to give an appreciation for all the hard work that everyone has done. So our intent of our session today is to provide you with some insights into how to basically take care of yourself as you move on into this next month or two. And so, having said that, we are extremely grateful to have Ms. Vira Salzburn with us today, and I'll let her say more about herself. But fortunately, many of us have known Ms. Salzburn for a while and recognize and appreciate her expertise, in mindful self-compassion. So she has been able to benefit not just us, but many others in our region, our area with this training. So without further ado, I'm going to turn over to Ms. Salzburn. You can introduce yourself, and then you should be able to, if you have slides or whatever, be able with your slides, our team will be able to pull those up. So again, thank you, Ms. Salzburn, and we have about 45 minutes or so, and then we'll go from there. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Telfair, and hello, everyone, and welcome. And most of you, if not all of you, have your cameras off, which is great. I actually wanted to invite you to create a comfortable space for yourself. And if that means turning your camera off, then keep it off. Make sure to get yourself comfortable and so you can enjoy this session. And this may be one of the only educational sessions where you can get credits for taking a nap, if that's what you need right now. If this is the most self-compassionate thing for you to do, please feel free to maybe take a quick nap. Again, I'm Vira Salzburn, and I will spend some time with you, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about mindful self-compassion. So I'm going to share my screen with you. However, if you are not able to see your screen or follow the slides visually, I will do my best to use my voice and describe the concepts. The visuals are there just to support the material. And all right, so we have 45 minutes, so I will talk maybe a little bit faster than usual. And the session today is called Mindful Self-Compassion Essentials. So we are just dipping our toe into this ocean of self-compassion, and I hope I will, do my best to describe to you what mindful self-compassion program is, and maybe give you a flavor of mindful self-compassion program today. And if there's interest in your group, and maybe we can even bring a longer course to your organization, to your students, to your staff, that teaches the skills, practical skills of mindfulness and self-compassion. All right, so let's maybe start with introduction. So I'm Vira Salzburn. I work as a program director for safety and resiliency programs at Chatham County Safety Net Planning Council. We're a small but mighty nonprofit organization here in Savannah, Georgia. And we've been serving our community here in Chatham County, as well as communities statewide, providing training in suicide prevention, mindfulness, self-compassion, resiliency, trauma-informed practices. And it's been incredible to be able to share the resources and knowledge with others, and also build capacity for our programs and develop more teachers. The past couple of years have been challenging, and also opened a lot of doors for opportunities to connect with people and help them learn the skills that may be helpful for them to live a healthier life. I am a trained teacher in mindful self-compassion. I'm also a master trainer in applied suicide intervention skills training, trauma-sensitive mindfulness and trauma-sensitive yoga instructor. I also teach community resiliency model and other different trainings and courses in our community. All right, so the program that we're talking today about mindful self-compassion, the good news, I didn't come up with it. It is an evidence-based program developed by really smart and really kind people. Dr. Kristin Neff, she is with the University of Texas at Austin, and Dr. Christopher Garmer, he is with Harvard Medical School. Dr. Neff is more on the research side of things. She's done a lot of research specifically with regards to self-compassion and how it impacts individuals and individuals' well-being and resiliency. And Dr. Garmer, he is a lecturer and he's also a practitioner and teaches individuals in group and one-on-one settings how to be more self-compassionate. So these two minds came together and developed a program, MSc program. The full blossom of the Mindful Self-Compassion program looks like an 8-week course, 2 hours a week for 8 weeks. There are also adaptations where you can take a course, a 6-week course, a more fast-paced, 6 hours a week for 1 hour a week for 6 weeks. And with our programming, in order to make this resource accessible to community members, we've developed different adaptations, including today's session. This is a quick flavor of the MSc program, just to let people know that this exists and that they can take a 1-day workshop, 2-day workshop, 6 or 8 week course, depending on their availability. All right, so, and I also wanted to mention that I was very fortunate to be trained by Dr. Neff and Dr. Garmer in person before COVID. And right after I received my teacher training, COVID hit. So in some ways, we kind of got right in time with this resource, and right when our community needed this resource, we were equipped to provide it to our community members. So a lot of times when I teach at this point in life, any workshop, whether it's on trauma-informed practices or suicide prevention or mindful self-compassion, we invite participants to really become their best teachers with regards to safety, that is emotional safety and maybe even physical safety. So a lot of times when we maybe start learning something, maybe something that requires us to look inward, it may evoke different and even difficult emotions and memories. So one of the ways that I would encourage you maybe to think about your own safety today, first of all, maybe think of times when you felt very safe, very comfortable. What were some of those physical sensations in your body? And if you want, you can put it into a chat box. And I can also, what participants usually report, I can share. They say muscles are relaxed, their breathing is deeper, their jaw is relaxed. Maybe there is even a sense of inner smile or gentle smile inside the mouth. The heart rate is slower, right? So there's this sense of relaxation and comfort. You can think of a baby when the baby is asleep and you just see how peaceful they are and relaxed, and their belly goes in and out when they're breathing, right? So that's the sense of safety in the body. And then think of times when maybe you're challenged by something. We're talking about good stress, not bad stress, not yet. So a lot of times when we're challenged, maybe by doing a task at work or learning something at school or being, learning something new. So that's what does challenge look like in your body? How does it land in your body? So again, if you wish, you can put it in the chat box, how you experience challenge. A lot of times people report there's this sense of tension, so muscles tense up a little bit. The breathing becomes a little bit more shallow, so it travels from the belly area more up to the chest area. Sometimes when we're challenged, we might start sweating a little bit, right? Maybe our eyebrows narrow down, also, we are more focused. When we're on the task, our attention is on the task, and we're challenged by it, our focus is right there on the subject of our challenge. So the challenge zone, you can think of it as the ultimate learning zone. And as you can imagine, we can't really learn effectively in an environment that's unsafe, so safety is the base, right? But being challenged by something we're learning, that helps our attention and engagement. So that's where I would like for us to stay throughout this workshop, feeling safe, but also maybe being challenged by the information. And sometimes we may feel overwhelmed. Sometimes when there's too much stress or challenge becomes too much, we may start having sensations and feelings of overwhelm. And how does that look like in your body? And it may look different for different people. We have people report who say, when I'm overwhelmed, I start feeling irritated or restless, or I start sweating too much, or maybe I started having tears in my eyes. Maybe it can be opposite. Rather than being hyper reactive, we maybe become hypo-reactive and we shut down, freeze, isolate ourselves, right? So maybe if we're talking about self-compassion, and for whatever reason you start feeling, this is a little bit overwhelming for me to think about this or even participate in the practice, I invite you to give yourself permission not to do it. It's okay. If you need to redirect your attention maybe somewhere else, you have the power of the finger, you can, turn the volume down, disengage from my voice. You may, if for instance, I have this beautiful, bush and tree outside of my window, you can maybe redirect your attention and look at something more pleasant. As the saying goes, where you put your attention, there it grows. So if you put your attention into something pleasant, rather something that's overwhelming, let it stay there. Sometimes I invite participants, maybe you can start making a list of places you'd like to visit. Maybe that's the way you would like to move your attention away from something that's overwhelming. I used to say maybe you can make a list of groceries you need to get, but then I realized that can be stressful for a lot of people. Dinner planning. Right, so again, the invitation today is just for you to become your best teacher, monitor your safety, and also using maybe this model for yourself in the future. Noticing, are you feeling safe, challenged, overwhelmed? And if you're in that red overwhelmed zone, bringing yourself back into safety with some of this mindfulness-based, attention-based strategies. All right, so maybe thumbs up, or maybe I just say, yes, we agree, we're going to be our own best teachers, especially in this environment where I don't have access to you physically. All right. So a lot of times when I teach the Mindful Self-Compassion workshop, I like to start with this question: why are you here? In fact, if some of you or any of you would like to think about this, maybe even write down a note for yourself. Why am I here? Why am I here? Okay. Just reflecting on this question. And then maybe asking yourself a deeper question. Why am I really here? Why am I really here? And if you wish, I would love to see any answers in the chat box. And maybe for some of you, answers would be, well, I'm here because I need to be, this is a requirement, right? But maybe there is a deeper answer. I'm really here because I think I may need this for myself, or I would like to grow my levels of self-compassion. I'm curious what it means to be self-compassionate. So the point of asking yourself this question is really about setting an intention for yourself. And the definition of intention is a determination to act in a certain way. And when we live our life with intention, when maybe every day when you walk into a space at your workplace or at school, or you walk back home after work, and just asking yourself, what is my purpose here? Or what am I doing? What am I really doing? Why am I here? Why am I really here? And even just having a practice of asking yourself that question or setting up an intention for yourself can really help you live more in accord with your values, with your goals, which a lot of times may be helpful in alleviating some of that unnecessary suffering and stress, and spreading our attention into places where maybe we don't need to. I hope that makes sense. And then also, when we talk about intention, I just mentioned attention, right? So what is attention? Attention is the act of applying the mind to something. So if intention is a purpose, then attention is applying our mind to something, maybe to fulfill that purpose. And in the world of mindfulness, when we talk about mindfulness, what is mindfulness, by definition? I prefer the definition by Jon Kabat-Zinn. He's the developer of a mindfulness-based stress reduction program, who says, mindfulness is paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. And I think this idea of non-judgmental attention, or attention with acceptance, what makes a difference between just paying attention to something or being truly mindful about your experience. Because, for instance, if you have an ache in your body somewhere, and you may, yes, bring attention to it, but what is the quality of that attention? You may say, my knee hurts. I can't believe it. That knee, it always hurts. So there is this maybe disappointment or irritation in the way you pay your attention. But attention non-judgmentally with acceptance is about, noticing, okay, my knee hurts. All right, I feel it. I realize it's there. Maybe even adding some of that compassion to it. This is difficult, right? So think about, yes, that you do pay attention to things, but also think about how you do it, right? So what is the quality of it? Why this is important? Well, when we pay attention to ourselves, when we begin to relate to ourselves in a certain way, it is a good practice to start thinking, am I relating to myself with what kind of quality of attention? Am I being kind or cruel to myself? Am I judging myself for something, or am I relating to myself with understanding? Okay. All right, so we've been arriving here into the session, and so the few things we're going to cover moving forward, we will gain an understanding of mindful self-compassion and its elements, explore the benefits of self-compassion, identify ways to implement self-compassion in daily life, and also I will mention a few resources for mindfulness and self-compassion. So wherever you are, I typically would have maybe a longer meditation for us to land. We call it soft landing in the MSc program. But maybe for now, just for the sake of time, if you can just get yourself comfortable, just notice your posture, maybe just take a few deep breaths, maybe to release any unnecessary tension in your body. Give yourself maybe a little movement in your body to get yourself again a little bit more comfortable. Maybe notice your environment around, maybe notice the colors, the sounds. Just kind of find yourself, locate yourself in your physical space right now, okay? And maybe even drop into your body for a second. You don't have to close your eyes, totally optional. Maybe as you breathe in and out, noticing your body breathing in and out. Maybe noticing if there are any parts in the body that are experiencing any pleasant sensations. Maybe there are some that are experiencing unpleasant sensations. or neutral. And just bringing awareness to that. And just recognizing that you are here in this human body, in this space. And maybe even offering yourself an inner smile, maybe just a smile inside your mouth, or maybe a smile across your heart, and just maybe a word of welcome or gratitude. You can say thank you to yourself for making time, for being here. Right? And if you had your eyes closed, you can open your eyes, and this is a very quick 30-second soft landing just for us to arrive into the space here. All right. So I would love to read you this poem. I use it quite often these days. And if you hate poetry, you may like this one. I don't know, you may. It goes like this. If you start the day without caffeine, if you can always be cheerful, ignoring aches and pains, if you can resist complaining and boring people with your troubles, if you can eat the same food every day and be grateful for it, if you can understand when your loved ones are too busy to give you any time, if you can take criticism and blame without resentment, if you can conquer tension without medical help, if you can relax without alcohol, if you can sleep without the aid of drugs, then you're probably a dog. Okay, this is a silly little poem that just an invitation to remind you that, as human beings, a lot of times we strive for perfection. In fact, I joke with some of my counselor friends. We are recovering perfectionists, and a lot of times, we want our lives to be perfect, but we are not, and lives aren't perfect. And we do need, a variety of foods, and we do rely on substances sometimes, and sometimes we get moody and don't like things. We're not as perfect as our four-legged friends. And how can maybe today we begin to consider a possibility of accepting ourselves just as we are? Notice I'm not saying by the end of this workshop you need to accept yourself just as you are. How about we maybe just set an intention? Maybe that could be a part of your why am I here process. Maybe setting an intention, maybe I can begin to consider a possibility of accepting myself or part of myself just as I am. Also, this poem makes me think of this fact that a lot of times, rather than being human beings, wouldn't you say you find yourself being a human doing? We're doing a lot of things, right? We have to do this and that, the list never ends. So maybe today you can just take a moment, even if it's just a minute, throughout this whole workshop, you take a minute just to be. Imagine that you don't have to be anywhere, you don't have to do anything, you just are present right here, right now, in this moment. And that in itself is enough. Okay. All right, so agreement to that, maybe? All right. Well, let's talk about compassion and self-compassion. So the word compassion, compassion, from Latin language is translated, it means to suffer with, to suffer with. I really enjoy this definition by Dr. Brené Brown, who says compassion is the courage to see the cause of suffering and the willingness to alleviate it. By the way, if you're familiar with Dr. Brené Brown's work, good for you. And if you're not, you may want to be. She's a researcher on shame, vulnerability. She's got great podcast, a book on leadership, Dare to Lead. And her new book just came out, and I just got it delivered yesterday, The Atlas of the Heart, where she describes 87 human emotions and really maps out the connection between emotions and humans. So I'm really excited to continue reading that book. So why does compassion take courage? Well, think about this. A lot of times if you walk down the street and you see maybe a homeless person or child, even to turn toward the pain of that person can be painful. In fact, in our brain, we have the structures of the brain called mirror neurons, where they can literally mirror the pain of others. And we can experience that physical pain, sometimes, mental pain that also can land in the physical body and vice versa. So it does take courage to turn toward the pain and not away from the pain. Okay. So if compassion is the courage to see the cause of suffering in others and the willingness to alleviate it, what is then self-compassion? There we go. Self-compassion is to see that I am suffering, I am hurting, okay? And to have the courage to turn toward that pain, and not necessarily, especially if it's traumatic pain, not necessarily, face forward all the way, diving into the ocean of pain. No, but just being aware of the presence of that pain. And you can also think of self-compassion as extending compassion to yourself in those instances of inadequacy or failure, or maybe just general struggle or suffering. Okay. This may be helpful to also understand what self-compassion means. So I invite you to think of a time where in your life, maybe you had a friend or someone you cared about, someone who was important to you. And that person, or maybe a being, could be an animal, your pet, were going through something difficult. Maybe, if it's your friend, maybe they were experiencing relationship problems or health problems, or maybe they felt like a failure. And what would you typically say to your friend in those instances? Okay. So what words would you say? And also think of, again, going back to that quality of your words, right? How would you say them? What would be the tone? Also, we talk about the body a lot because the body is really wise, and bringing awareness to the body helps us also bring awareness to our, emotional body. So physical body, emotional body. So what was your body like? What was your body language, nonverbal gestures when you were offering maybe that support or encouragement to your friend who was suffering? Okay, so just think about that. If you'd like to share in the chat, you can. A lot of times people report, say, well, when my friend struggles, usually I say, it's okay, you got this, you're a good person. The tone of voice is warm or encouraging, like a good coach, right? The body feels more open and just almost want to give a hug, maybe leaning toward that person, okay? And now I invite you to think of this next question. Think of the times when you were experiencing something difficult. Maybe you had school problems, work problems, relationship problems. Maybe you perceived yourself as a failure. What did you say to yourself? What tone of voice did you use? What was your body like in that moment? So a lot of times, most people report being they worst critics. They say, I usually blame myself, or just tell myself, why did I do this? Or should have done this, should have done that. A lot of times the tone of voice is not as pleasant and kind and supportive as we use with our friend. Also, the body does not feel open and soft, and it rather feels tight and tense, right? We tense up because we're adding that stress of self-criticism to it. It is not for everyone always that type of response, but most people, in fact, research tells us. So Dr. Neff, one of the co-developers of the program, she's done extensive research with many different groups of people, and 78% of participants in her research report to be more compassionate to others than they are to themselves. Only about 6% are more compassionate to themselves than others. And then the difference, the 16% of people are equally compassionate. to others and themselves. So the good news is that, with me asking you that question, how would you treat your friend? And assuming that most of you typically would support your friend in a benevolent, kind way, it just shows that you have the capacity for compassion in you, right? So the Mindful Self-Compassion program helps you develop the skill to turn this compassion inward for yourself, make a U-turn with it. Or perhaps just to begin including yourself in the circle of compassion that you have for everyone else. Just because so often in life we live out of balance. So much time we give to others. And as the cliche goes, the saying goes, you can pour from an empty cup. So the skill of self-compassion is to really become an ally to yourself and a friend to yourself, just as you are a friend to others. There is a saying, do unto others as you do to yourself. But I don't know, a lot of times we do unto others much kinder and better than we do to ourselves. So, so the invitation is to maybe start thinking about, what maybe that would look like for you, and where are you in the terms of statistics? Are you the person who gives more compassion to others, or do you have somewhere equal levels of compassion? If you're interested, you can go on Dr. Neff's website, selfcompassion.org. I believe you can just also look her up, Dr. Kirsten Neff, and I will share this presentation with you. And she has a test. Basically, you can take a survey, and it will you can get the results right away, and it will show you where are you on the self-compassion scale. Okay, if you're interested. All right. So we talked about certain definitions of compassion and self-compassion, and the Mindful Self-Compassion program and the way it's taught, it really looks into self-compassion through this three elements, through the prism of three concepts. Self-compassion involves mindfulness, common humanity, and self-kindness. So let's look at each one. So again, mindfulness. Why do we need mindfulness in order to be compassionate to ourselves? Well, if we're not aware of the pain, then it's very difficult to offer ourselves kindness, right? If we're not aware of the cause of the pain. So with mindfulness and mindful awareness, we can really become aware of where it really hurts, where it is in our life, in our being, we're experiencing suffering. So what is the opposite of mindfulness? Well, it could be mindlessness. But Dr. Neff specifically focuses on over-identification. That's the opposite of mindfulness. What is over-identification? Well, here's an example. You have a feeling, let's say jealousy. I use jealousy as an example, as jealousy doesn't have a good reputation in the family of feelings. And a lot of times the process goes like this. Jealousy, I don't like this feeling. I don't want this feeling. Something is wrong with me for feeling jealousy. I'm a bad jealous person. So quickly we go from having a feeling and recognizing it to letting it stick to us and over-identifying, right? So with mindful awareness, we begin to learn that you're not your thoughts, you have your thoughts. And you're not your feelings, you have your feelings. And helping unstick, right? Creating that spacious awareness. Okay? And a lot of times it is a matter of just noticing what's going on and letting yourself know, I see your pain, I see your suffering, I see your emotion, labeling that emotion, right? So rather than being stuck with the emotion, you can kind of imagine almost like holding it in your hand, having it, not pushing it away. Resistance is another way of another thing that's kind of opposite of mindfulness. So we're not trying to resist it or make it go away, but we're just aware that it's there, and we're offering our self-compassion if it is a difficult experience or emotion. So this component of common humanity is also important in self-compassion practice. So what is it? Common humanity is really recognizing that you are not alone. You're not alone when it comes to your struggle. It is not to say that, it is not to diminish your struggle, but just to help us recognize whatever I'm dealing with, I'm not the only person in the world that's dealing with it. Because that type of mindset a lot of times would lead to shame and isolation and thinking of yourself as the worst person that ever lived, right? So common humanity helps us realize that other people also have problems at work, family problems, health problems. Other people also judge themselves harshly and don't know all the answers, and that kind of that poem that I read at the beginning, about the dog, that just reminder that I am just a human and I'm imperfect and life is imperfect. Again, not to excuse bad behavior, not at all, but just to be realistic and see ourselves clearly. So the third component of the self-compassion practice is practicing self-kindness. And that can be done in many different ways. It could be being kind to yourself, relating to yourself with more kindness rather than judging yourself harshly. Sometimes offering yourself just a warm inner smile. It could be behavioral self-kindness. We talk about self-care all the time. So choosing to do things for yourself that are good for you and are kind things to do. I'll talk about this just a little bit more in a moment. And or sometimes just reminding yourself, I'm here for you. You're there for yourself. If no one else is, then you show up for you. And the opposite of self-kindness is self-judgment, really harshly criticizing yourself. And what's the difference between harsh self-criticism and constructive self-criticism? Well, think about the way it impacts, again, your body, your physical and emotional body. If the self-criticism, or I would rather call it, coaching, self-coaching is, if it's done in a healthy way, then you feel encouraged and motivated, energized in your body, right? Maybe mobilized to do something in this pleasant way. But if you're judging yourself harshly, a lot of times it adds stress to the body in a way that's unpleasant. It feels heavy, tense. It can feel like clenching in the throat, tightness in the chest, almost sometimes as a headache, a bad taste in the mouth, almost like a metal taste. So again, going back to that quality of that inner voice, right? And recognizing that. So when we talk about self-compassion, a lot of times people, when hear self-compassion, they think it's something really fluffy and pink and soft and feminine. And there's definitely that feminine or yin side to it. And self-compassion also has that more stronger masculine side, yang side to it too. In fact, Dr. Kristin Neff, she just came out with a new book. It's called Fierce Self-Compassion, which she wrote specifically about the yang self-compassion and specifically self-compassion for women and how to show up in the world in a self-compassionate way and what that means. So you can think of self-compassion as having soft front and strong back, because we do need both. We need to be soft and vulnerable, but not too much so we, people start taking advantage of ourselves or of us, or that we are not able to handle difficulties of life. And also we need to be strong and resilient. So think of it as that yin self-compassion is about comforting your physical body, soothing your emotional body, validating yourself when you feel something or you've done something or experienced something, acknowledging it and validating it. And the strong side of self-compassion, the yang side, is about protecting yourself, saying no to things that are harmful, providing something for yourself, saying yes to things that you need, the good things for you, and also motivating yourself like a good coach and not like your worst enemy and not like the worst critic. Yang self-compassion, when I think about social movements in the world, when I think about people protesting racism or social injustice, that is self-compassion. People stand up for themselves and say enough is enough. We need to protect ourselves. We need to provide ourselves with opportunities and rights. So you can also think of that as an act of self-compassion. So here's a model that I just kind of came up with. This as a way I work with kids, so maybe help kids learn to remember some of the steps of practicing self-compassion, and also adults seem to like it too. So the model is called PARC, and each letter of the word PARC it's an acronym, stands for a certain action. So the idea is we need to park before we move. There is the story, Friday night, the husband had a very long day at work. So he's getting into his car and is driving home after work. And the wife is calling him and she says, "Honey, I just heard on the radio, they're saying some maniac is driving on the wrong side of the interstate." And the husband is saying, "Honey, they're all doing that." Okay, so he's the one driving on the wrong side of the interstate. But think about this, we're so busy in life, and we have so much going on that sometimes we, hopefully not literally drive on the wrong side of the interstate, but we just, are unable to make decisions because we're so reactive rather than responsive. And we just become a part of this flow that takes us away and carries us away. So a lot of times we really need to pause, we need to park before we move forward with the next moment or the next hour or the next day or decision. So P stands for pause, just pausing what you're doing. A lot of times it's helpful in your environment, creating reminders to pause. It could be an object. Maybe when you look at that object, it reminds you, maybe I need to pause. Sometimes people maybe who have certain religious identities, maybe they wear certain objects, and when they hold that object or look at it, it reminds them to pause, maybe take a few breaths, kind of reflect inward. A stands for ask, asking yourself, what do I need right now? And a lot of times, a lot of us, we don't ask ourselves this question, and the practice is to maybe even ask it a few times. What do I need? What do I really need? Just the way at the beginning of the class, when you're setting the intention, why am I here? Why am I really here? Because, a lot of times on Friday after a long day, a long week, people ask, what do I need right now? And somebody would say, well, I need a drink, but what do I really need right now? And a lot of times the answer may be somewhere in that yin or yang compassion, comfort, soothe, validation, protection, providing something, motivation, right? And keeping that question in the background of your awareness, asking recognizing your body. And this is where we spend a lot of time in the MSc program doing meditation and recognizing what's going on in the body, where the emotions show up, what the emotions we're experiencing, what are the thoughts. A lot of times, for me at least, it's easier to start with the body because every thought, every belief, every emotion lands somewhere in the body. It has physical response, physical sensation. Thoughts can be harder to track, but maybe beginning to notice your thought processes, your patterns, your beliefs, right? Things like that. And once you recognize those physical, emotional, cognitive patterns, maybe in that moment, kindly responding to yourself. Maybe what would that kindness look like? How would you treat your physical body with kindness? What does that look like? Maybe offering yourself some hydration, or going for a walk, or just getting yourself more comfortable, noticing, oh, I've been sitting here and I have a lower back pain. I need to kind of shift a little bit, even if it's a micro adjustment, but it's still doing something for yourself to get yourself a little bit more comfortable. Or emotionally, do I need to, recognize what's going on, name my emotions, say something to myself kind, wish something for myself kind, and thoughts, maybe notice those patterns and maybe redirect my thoughts. Maybe I spent the past 20 minutes thinking about something that alleviated, increased levels of stress in my body, right? So just considering this practice. And when we talk about harsh self-criticism, just so you know, and just what research tells us, is that harsh self-criticism can lead to depression, anxiety, and relationship problems. Self-criticism has been linked to eating disorders, self-mutilation, body dysmorphic disorders. A tendency to criticize oneself leads to projecting negative beliefs into others and resulting in isolation and loneliness. Also, self-critical individual often finds it difficult to assert personal needs and desires. Okay, and maybe, you know, I assume the audience today, we have maybe some faculty, maybe we have some doctoral students, graduate students, and you are the people who work very hard and you want things to be just right. You serve other people, you work in academia, and I was just listening to a podcast from a faculty member at Yale who was sharing how much additional stress students experience because of exactly this harsh self-criticism, you know, always on the pushing side, proving side, striving side. So just kind of to reflect on this. All right, so I may or may not have another minute, but just so you know, when you are criticizing yourself, you are activating the threat defense system in your brain, which is responsible for the fight, flight, and freeze modes, right, or responses. Just when someone criticizes you, for instance, someone would come to you and say, "You did a bad job, you're wrong." And a lot of times it can either put us into a state of fight, "No, you're wrong," right? We're gonna fight for ourselves, or fleeing. "Oh, I just want to leave. I don't even want to talk to this person." Or freezing, start ruminating, thinking over and over about what they're saying. Well, the same happens when we're criticizing ourselves. With self-criticism, in fact, we're both the attacker and the attacked, okay? We can really put ourselves into that state of self-criticism, self-judgment. Sometimes it can result in self-harm. It can lead to isolation when you criticize yourself a lot. You don't want to maybe talk to people, or you feel ashamed and you hide, right? And again, you start ruminating, spending a lot of times in your own thoughts, in the melodrama that evolves there in your mind. So that's these components that I mentioned before: self-kindness, common humanity, mindfulness, that they help us down-regulate this threat defense system, and they help us activate the caregiving system, and help us create a sense of safety in the body, physical body, emotional body. In fact, think about when a baby is distressed, or kitty or puppy, and a human mama or animal mama is trying to comfort the baby. A lot of times we say, the parent, it could be dad, the parent says, "It's okay," they're using soothing voice, maybe that comforting gesture, soothing touch. They're relating to their baby with kindness, and the happy hormones start flooding the bloodstream, oxytocin, endorphins, and increases that feeling of safety and security. And you can do that for yourself with self-compassion. With self-compassion, you are reparenting yourself. You're offering yourself the safety that you need in order to help your brain and body relax, and also, which can also help making better decisions and increase levels of happiness and satisfaction and so forth. All right, so let's see if I can progress with the slide here. Just to recap that with self-criticism, we're both the attacker and the attacked, and with self-compassion, we're both the holder and the held. And if you can see my hand here, imagine this is your stress. This is something difficult or difficult emotion. If you're criticizing yourself for it, it's like doing this, which is more painful, adding more pain. And with self-compassion, this is your painful emotion, your stress, your struggle, and you're bringing this other hand to gently hold it with kind attention and understanding. All right, so I will quickly go into just a few resources. So yes, as a result of completing the full mindful self-compassion program, The goal is to become, not to stop being a mess, because we all are, but to become a compassionate mess. Okay, and I just love this quote by Carl Rogers, who says, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I change." So this is a book, a workbook for mindful self-compassion, where you can actually on your own complete exercises, meditations, have self-reflective exercises. There's self-compassion for parents. I know some of you here are parents. Really good resource with a lot of practical exercises as well, and meditations and techniques. And the Center for Mindful Self-Compassion, Center for MSC.org, they offer a lot of training and resources. And also we do too here at the Planning Council. And this is my email address and my phone number. And if your group is interested, we can bring a full 8-week or 6-week course, or just a full day workshop to you if you guys want to learn a little bit more and practice some meditations and self-reflective exercises and things like that. So, all right, I did it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Salzburn. So that was excellent, and we appreciate both your wisdom and your resources. So we have a few minutes for any comments or questions for Ms. Salzburn. So we do have a comment in the chart from chat from Dr. Nazaruk, who says, "Very interesting, relaxing presentation." I'm guessing that the language is the language. Yeah, okay, fine. I'm not sure what that means, but okay. Oh, it says thank you. Is that what it means, Dr. Nazaruk? Okay, thank you. All right. Any other comments?
I know this was a short presentation, so we didn't really get to dive into maybe meditations or longer practices, just kind of essentials. Just
we will be sure to invite you back, ma'am.
Okay, great.
Okay. Any other comments or any other questions?
Oh, thank you. I can't take credit for my voice. It's just biological, I guess, but I will say thank you. I do get that a lot. It's helpful.
Okay. All right, then. So we all give our thanks to you, Ms. Salzburn, and our appreciation from many of our persons. So thank you all again, everyone who participated in our call today. This is the last seminar we have for the semester, and we wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to listen at ways you can take care of yourself. We acknowledge this. It's been just a real challenging year, and we wanted to make sure that you had something that will allow you and your family and others to work with yourself. Ms. Salzburn, any parting comments before we go?
Thank you all. Take care of yourself. I know the new year is coming, and my idea for the new year, same old me, loving yourself more.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, and we appreciate it tremendously. And everyone, we wish the rest of the year for you to be a good one. Thank you and goodbye.
All right.